Hi, I'm Andrea with Garrett Library. I am doing this week's Railroader reading. I am reading an article from Reader's Digest, the March-April 2022 edition. The article is entitled Pandemic Silver Linings. If you wish you had a fast forward button to push in March 2020, you're not alone. But some readers found a bright side. So we are going to read a couple of stories about the bright sides that some of these people found. Walking buddies. My husband and I walk in our neighborhood every day. Early in the pandemic, we often passed a dog that would bark in greeting and bounce alongside us from inside an invisible fence. One day, the dog's owner was outside, and we told him we would be happy to take his dog along with us sometimes. And just like that, we had a new companion on our miles-long jaunts. Marley, a golden doodle, trots down the road with her tail wagging and her head high. She knows heel very well, luckily for us, and will stop and point when she sees a squirrel or a rabbit. Nearly 2 years later, we still walk with Marley almost daily, even through Wisconsin winters. She sits in the bay window watching our house each day around walk time, waiting to catch a glimpse of us coming down the street to get her. And that was from Lisa Young from Stevens Point, Wisconsin. Meditation in black and white. I always wanted to play the piano, but never thought I'd be able to learn. Desperate for something to keep my mind off nonstop COVID-19 news, I decided to teach myself. Armed with nothing but a newcomer's enthusiasm and my son's basic keyboard. After 2 months, my slightly noticeable progress inspired me to buy a digital piano. Playing became my meditation. More than a year later, I still learn something new each day. I was so pleased by my growth and hope it can inspire others to learn new things at any age. In April 2021, I created a YouTube channel, Jane's Hobbies, to showcase my piano progress and other hobbies. I also learned chess and play with my husband or son almost every night. And now, my most difficult challenge yet, English. It's my second language, and I'm still learning every day. Reader's Digest is one of my favorite ways to practice, picking up skills, knowledge, tips, and ways to share love along the way. This has been my most productive year yet. That was submitted by Jane Lee of Saline, Michigan. A new chance at love. At the beginning of lockdown, I'd been widowed for 3 years. After 45 years of marriage, my husband was in a Vietnam veterans group and so was Bob. He'd been single since a divorce in 1980. I'd see Bob occasionally when I brought my taxes into his accounting office. He called me in March 2020 to remind me of my appointment and asked if I'd like to join him at his church sometime. He sang in the choir. I also sing in my choir, so that sounded quite nice. I went in the next day to get my taxes done, and Bob made a little map to his church. Before we even made it to Sunday, the world was in quarantine. No dinners, movies, or church services. Bob and I started texting, sending letters via snail mail, and talking on the phone. We called it phone dating, as we spent hours every day getting to know each other, and yes, falling in love. In June, it felt safe enough to meet. We wondered if it would feel weird to finally embrace. It didn't. We kissed and knew we wouldn't quarantine from one another any longer. At ages 67 and 72, we are looking to a permanent future together. We were blessed with new love in a pandemic. That was submitted by Linda Hamilton from Princeton, Minnesota. Learning to sit still. I never miss my 10 a.m. yoga class. I like to be there early, pick the best spot to lay my mat, and do my warm-ups. Friends would trickle in and we'd laugh and share our plans for the day. Then on to another class, another outing, another errand, always on the go. I was like a bird, fly here, fly there, fly everywhere, until the pandemic clipped my wings. And this bird perched on the windowsill and stared outside, forlorn. It took me a while to adjust. I started practicing Spanish. I woke up early and dedicated time to writing while the birds sang outside. I honed my photography skills and now have an enviable portfolio. I took up calligraphy and derive a great deal of joy from my self-taught hobby. But most importantly, I became comfortable with solitude. Mindfulness was something I'd only read about but never practiced. During this pandemic, I made a new friend, me. I like her a lot. That was submitted by Natasha Semagand from Weston, Florida. The road less pedaled. After spending 2 weeks on the couch, my husband and I decided to dust off our bikes. We started out with no plan other than to move, enjoy the outdoors, and get off our devices. School was virtual, work was slow, and we were concerned for our health. Short rides got longer and longer. We found new roads, got lost, and enjoyed every minute. Over time, we picked up cyclist lingo, bought the gear, learned the repairs, and pushed our limits. We conquered hills and slayed the miles. We found peace in the back roads with cows, wild turkeys, and horses, and discovered beauty you can't see from a car. The pandemic may be a dumpster fire, but it propelled us into a hobby we've loved since childhood. We are now addicted, much healthier, and much closer. That was from Chris Meyer from Lafayette, Indiana. Ministering Hope. My niece Morgan came by my house one day to ask me a very important question. Would I officiate her wedding? I was delighted to become an ordained minister online and marry Morgan and her fiancé, Trent, albeit in a much smaller ceremony than they'd originally planned. To heed social distancing guidelines. Preparing for the wedding, reading scripture, and praying restored my faith. That was from Derek Roth from East Berlin, Pennsylvania. And the last story is Teaching Grandma Garden. I had the pleasure of teaching elementary students for 25 years, retiring just before COVID hit. That summer, my grandson was gearing up for his first year of school. Then it was moved online, and my grandson was very disappointed. He is shy and easily lost in the hubbub of 25 kindergartners competing for one weary teacher's attention. We decided to have Grandma Garden every day to support his learning. We Zoom for an hour each day, having a blast practicing our ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. So far, I've learned that my grandson wants to be an astronaut when he grows up, that he is going to be the first American to walk on Mars, and that he is going to stop at the International Space Station on the way so he can study the nebulous planets. I live 4 states away from my grandson and would have never gotten this time with him otherwise. Grandma Garden has been one of the greatest silver linings of my life. That was submitted by Melanie Anderson from Chubbuck, Idaho. So it's good to look on the bright side. I know the pandemic's been rough on everyone. Um, I'm glad we're here together. And I hope you have a great week. See you later.